called prana.
Yogic flying is an advanced meditation practice. What happens due to a mental technique, the brainwave becomes powerfully coherent. A lot of bliss and energy starts to flow through the physiology, and spontaneously the body springs. The first stage of yogic flying, the body can't hold still, and it starts to spring and hop and tries to fly. The second stage is when the body actually hovers in the air for a short while. And the third stage is mastery of the skies, when the body can fly.
The first thing you notice when watching people practicing the first stage of yogic flying is that it looks less like flying and more like hopping in the lotus position. The second is that these people are really happy.
Flying feels absolutely fantastic. Just before a person takes off, just before they levitate, they experience a great expansion of happiness. Even getting off the ground 1 inch is pure fulfillment. Second stage will be even better. And third stage, I can hardly wait to see 10,000 people flying in the air together.
Stage 3 sure looks a long way off. However, TM University researcher Dr. Fred Travis claims there are actual metabolic effects in the human body, even in stage 1 flying.
We look in that 1 second period, just before they actually lift up. There's broadband, which means it's across many frequencies, global coherence. And so the person is in a very different state of mind, different state of brain. We call it pure consciousness. And it's from there that the impulse to fly comes.
The claims escalate from there. They reject Newton's laws of gravity, saying they are hundreds of years out of date.
Newton's laws simply say that the human body will be held down to the Earth by the force of gravity, just as the moon is held to orbiting the Earth through the force of gravity. So if the body lifts up, it would be in defiance of these classical gravitational laws. We understand how you can overcome classical gravity and how the body can float and fly.
Perhaps not surprisingly, no one has gotten beyond stage 1 of the process, and the university won't predict when or if yogic flyers will ever truly fly. But they say it doesn't really matter, because they've found that even first stage yogic flying produces an interesting byproduct, what they call the Maharishi effect.
The real purpose of yogic flying, especially in groups, is to create world peace, to put an end to this tragic legacy of violence and crime and terrorism and war.
That's right. They say if we can get a critical mass of people to practice flying, about 1% of the population, generations of Miss America contestants will get their wish: world peace. For now, TMers remain grounded for all but split seconds. But we did find one yogi who really does fly, in his own plane, thanks to the millions of rupees his avid followers donate in poverty-stricken India. Acharya Satyananda is a sort of celebrity televangelist, broadcasting his brand of fortune-telling and spiritualism to 250,000 followers in Calcutta. What's his secret? That same great universal energy that powers yogic flying, prana. By accessing prana, Satyananda claims to be able to read and manipulate people's minds.
এটা আমার sixth sense যে আমি বুঝতে পারি যে এই ব্যক্তির এই প্রবলেমটি আছে
I have a sixth sense, a power. People come to me with their problems. As soon as they enter the room, I know what their problems are. I read their minds.
During meditation, Satyananda claims, his mind leaves his body and gathers the electromagnetic powers of the universe. This energy enables him to exert his powers over the minds of his followers, even 6,000 at a time. But Satyananda has big dreams. One day he hopes to control the whole world. He's built a lucrative business empire, but he's not apologetic. In fact, he considers himself a more modern type of God-man. Traditionally, Indian holy men renounce all worldly possessions and live a simple life. Not quite the lifestyle Satyananda prefers.
Sadhus don't do anything for society. I want to do something because my followers give me a lot. So I'm starting an aircraft maintenance and engineering institute that will be the biggest in India.
But not everyone believes that Satyananda is tapping into vast energies unknown to science in order to control minds and foresee futures. Meet Guru Buster Prabir Ghosh, the scourge of Calcutta's so-called godmen. He's on a mission to rid India of certain gurus who he believes to be cheats and thieves. Little does our godman know, but Ghosh has a trap waiting for him, and it will take real superhuman powers to get out of this jam. In India, the tradition of godmen runs long and deep. They're conjurers that roam the country in a sort of traveling sideshow, demonstrating so-called miraculous powers. But not everyone in India is convinced that godmen are for real. Guru Buster Prabir Ghosh has spent years patrolling the streets of Calcutta, seeking to expose all forms of false claims and swindles.
We go after godmen and godwomen who claim to possess supernatural powers in order to show people that godmen have no such powers and they are a danger to society.
In this city, he's had incredible success. Godmen are few and far between. So now, he and his team are taking the show on the road, touring rural Indian villages and drawing crowds of people by demonstrating how so-called miracles are performed. Ghosh says that India is a haven for unscrupulous godmen, all making easy money from even the most ludicrous claims. It's his life's work, exposing the godmen who make money by false means, especially those who prey on India's vast underclass.
Godmen make a fortune because villagers are ignorant and afraid of any misfortune coming their way. They'll tell villagers to offer prayers along with 2,000 rupees, otherwise their son might die. That villager will even mortgage his land to shell out that amount.
Today he is exposing a simple and common godman trick, throwing balls of fire. The key? Just combine dirt with potassium permanganate, which is a component of flash powder. And voila, a giant fireball. Currently, the #1 most wanted godman on Ghosh's list is our prosperous flying godman, Acharya Satyananda.
He is an extremely wealthy man who cheats people out of money by using astrology. He scares people by telling them about problems that may not happen and then charges them $100, double the monthly salary of most Indians. One can imagine how much he is exploiting people.
Prabir Ghosh has invited us along on his mission to expose Satyananda. Ghosh and his group of skeptics have set up an elaborate sting operation. He'll send in 2 teams of people, all unrelated, who will pose as family members. Each team will present Satyananda with a fictional problem they will ask him to resolve. As a godman who can tap into the mystical energies of the universe to control minds as well as read them, he should surely sniff out the counterfeits and expose them before they expose him. This can be dangerous work. Ghosh was once attacked and had several ribs broken while exposing a godman scam. Will Satyananda really be able to call upon his so-called sixth sense, read the skeptics' minds, and expose the operation?
De mii de ani, omul a căscat gura la stele sperând să-i vină de acolo răspunsul. Suntem singuri pe lume? Creaturi ciudate ne-au chinuit întotdeauna imaginația. Dar poate că ne-am uitat în direcția greșită. Căutați mai bine în oceane. Monștrii din adâncuri. Vineri toată ziua pe National Geographic Channel. Acum 60 de ani, omenirea celebra victoria din Pacific. Nimeni însă nu bănuia sacrificiile făcute pentru a încheia un război barbar. National Geographic scoate la lumină imagini incredibile și mărturii document. Aflați cum s-a clădit această aniversare. VJ, victorie asupra Japoniei, duminică la ora 22.
Nick Middleton s-a întors, acum din călătorii și mai îndepărtate. Omul care își împinge răbdarea trupului, a minții și a sufletului la extrem a urmat drumul mătăsii. Urmați-l pe Nick în 4 aventuri foarte originale. Către noi extreme. În curând pe National Geographic.
The first team enters the guru's office. The only information he asks for is the young woman's date of birth.
1981.
After checking some charts, he tells the woman that she is unable to sustain relationships with men because her life is unbalanced. He then prescribes an expensive amulet that will protect her and gives advice as to the right person to marry.
Just went through a book and said, yes, these are the problems. In her horoscope, these are very dangerous signs, and she has to wear this medallion, which costs 5,500 rupees. I think it's not even 1 month's salary for these people who are sitting there. So you can imagine the amount of hoax, amount of cheating they are doing in the name of this. They are just scaring people like anything.
The second team meets with the guru and gets a similar treatment.
Date of birth? 25th October. 78 October.
Once again, he hands over a prescription that calls for purchasing a pricey amulet. The plan then moves into high gear. A text message is sent to Ghosh, signaling that it is time to confront the God-Man.
না না আমরা তো এখনই এখানে ঢুকলাম আপনি একটু ওয়েট করবেন এর সাথে একটু কথা আছে
Ghosh then asks the team to retell the made-up stories to everyone, which causes an uproar. The guru demands that Ghosh return all of the documents he wrote, and his entourage starts to get ugly.
Once they realized that we were there to expose them and their fraudulent activities, their behavior suddenly became antisocial. They and their hired goons became violent towards us.
Satyananda's staff demands that Ghosh and his team leave the office. But not everyone gets out in time. The National Geographic producer, who has filmed part of the sequence, is still trapped with an angry Satyananda and his entourage.
We are here now at the Satyananda's ashram, and they have captured our director because we have proved him wrong. He's already fake, he's a fraud, and at the same time, he has hit the director.
The police are on the way. Yeah, they're on the way.
Thanks to the police, our producer escapes with only bruises. But Satyananda's revenge has only begun. 3 days later, while broadcasting his television program, Satyananda pleads with his followers to kill Prabir Ghosh. Satyananda is quickly arrested, and local politicians call for an end to broadcasts like his. In the end, apparently, the mystical energies of the universe deserted Satyananda.
When you look at Satyananda, you see the paleness of his face because he became nervous. Why is that? If he's such a powerful God-man that reads minds, why could he not read my mind too? This is how we expose Satyananda.
For the moment, it seems, Ghosh and his skeptical team have grounded Acharya Satyananda. But it's time to return to the more remarkable claims of people whose superhuman abilities, however gruesome, seem real. Are Sufi mystics who inflict terrible wounds on themselves really tapping into a spiritual energy that prevents pain, bleeding, and infection? Can a snapshot of that energy be captured in a lab? Or is this all something modern medicine can explain? As we saw earlier, Sufi mystics of the Tariqa Khaznazaniya order appear to be capable of inflicting terrible wounds on themselves and claim to experience no pain, almost no bleeding, no infection, and near instantaneous healing. How? Their leaders, or sheikhs, say they tap into spiritual energy of the universe that comes from Allah and protects them.
They say that they are channeling energy to heal people, and this sounds very improbable. What they're probably doing is sort of a placebo effect. If you believe it, it works.
Psychologist Dr. Howard Hall was so moved by the power of what the dervishes were doing that he tried it himself. Convinced that something other than self-hypnosis was involved, he became an initiate in the Sufi order. In search of evidence of the energy that protects him during deliberately caused bodily damage rituals, Hall has now joined forces with Dr. Gary Schwartz of the University of Arizona's Center for Frontier Medicine, a leading institute in one of the most controversial fields of medical research, energy and spiritual healing.
When I first saw the footage that Dr. Hall brought back from Iraq, I couldn't believe it. In fact, I wondered, was there fraud involved? So once I became convinced that this was not just trickery, then the question was, well, gee, could you explain this as some sort of placebo effect? But as you look at instance after instance of phenomenal endurance of things that most of us couldn't possibly do, and there seems to be virtually no long-term damage, you begin to seriously question whether all of this could be explained as a simple mental effect. And then you start wondering, well, could the spiritual side of this be important as they believe it is?
Schwartz wants to determine what, if any, changes are taking place in the brain as Hall attempts to jam an ice pick through his cheek. But first, they need a measurement from a controversial device known as a gas discharge visualization instrument, or GDV.
The GDV system picks up electrical activity around the fingertips, and then using sophisticated computer algorithms actually presents a whole body image of the different regions, energy regions around the body.
GDV technology has its roots in a controversial process discovered over 75 years ago called Kirlian photography. In 1939, Semyon Kirlian found that if an object on a photographic plate is subjected to a high-voltage, high-frequency electrical field, an image is formed on the plate that resembles a halo. Some believe that this halo is a physical manifestation of the spiritual aura which supposedly surrounds us all. Scientists believe the halo is usually moisture. The effect is known as a corona discharge. Using the GDV, Schwartz is looking for evidence to show if Hall's personal energy field or aura changes as he injures himself with the ice pick. But first, they need to take a baseline reading. Now it's time for the test to begin. Hall is wired up to an electroencephalogram machine, or EEG, a device that graphically records the electrical activity of the brain.
When I do the piercing, I'm asking for specific aid for this intervention from the ancestors and the current sheikh.
In order to obtain this permission from the sheikh, Hall goes into a meditative state and says a series of mantras over and over again. The meditation period lasts nearly 90 minutes.
His brain did in fact go into a more relaxed state over the course of the prayer. We didn't see any anomalous things. He wasn't going into seizures, he wasn't going into a deep sleep state, he wasn't in a hyper-aroused state. His brain looked relatively normal.
He says that what we're about to record is the actual transfer of energy between the Sufi spiritual leader and himself. So, does he feel any pain?
Gee, you can open your eyes if you'd like.
No, it's just a dull ache. There was no physiological pain.
So, what you'll do is you'll take it out and then you close your eyes and just relax, okay?
No, just check. Are you ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
I'll make sure I got the right place.
Okay.
Now, will the wound heal as quickly as promised?
No blood?
And I'm going to lunch after this, guys.
That's good. By the way, there's no blood on the
Droplets of blood continue to trickle out.
It's usually a couple of drops that come out. That's about the timing.
But after just a few minutes, Dr. Schwartz takes a closer look at the wound.
And it is, I can't even tell where it is. I mean, it's not obvious. A whole bunch of dots.
Was this result really caused by Sufi energy healing? Now the team looks to the GDV to see if Hall's aura was affected.
What this shows, which is the first time ever, is that if we compare the pre versus the post, we're seeing with the GDV a selective decrease in energy, curiously in the area where the actual skewer was placed through the jaw. You saw this gaping hole in the energy field in the area of the jaw, which was frankly much greater than I would have initially anticipated.
Does the GDV show that a spiritual power intervened and protected Dr. Hall as claimed? Or is there a simple explanation?
Yes, I think it's possible that there is a simple explanation, but the simple explanation is one that Western scientists have difficulty with. The simple explanation is that this is actually coming from permission from divinity, that it really is involving a spiritual component, and that component is very, quote, simple.
We have a name for that which looks superficially like science, that uses scientific gadgetry, scientific jargon, but is fundamentally not science. It's called pseudoscience.
We'll be taking a much closer look at the rather mysterious GDV device later on. But first, let's meet a person who tortures himself not for spiritual purposes, but for money, and without the help of mystical energies. Meet Tim Cridland, a.k.a. Zamora, the Torture King. He performs a regular Las Vegas stage show where he inserts sharp instruments through his body, and he too claims to suffer no pain. But here, the similarities with the Sufis end. Cridland makes no claim to be doing anything supernatural.
It's the real thing. There's no trickery in it. There's a very thin margin of error. If I lose focus or concentration, I can get hurt very severely.
Does he not feel any pain, or does he just have an incredible tolerance for torture?
No blood, no pain, ladies and gentlemen. That is mind over matter.
We wanted to measure Cridland's abilities, so we went to see Dr. Joshua Prager, an anesthesiologist at the UCLA School of Medicine and a noted expert on the mechanism of pain. Using a device that delivers a low-voltage electric sensation, he'll determine what Cridland's pain tolerance really is.
Now we're going to change the frequency.
Most people score in the 4 to 6 range. Cridland's first attempt is a 20.
Your score basically puts you in outer space compared to the rest of the population.
And after one practice round, Cridland scores an off-the-scale 27. Dr. Prager believes that by using meditation and self-hypnosis, Tim has somehow learned to block pain signals from being processed by the brain at a nerve path called the descending pathway.
Okay, ready? Go. Well, I theorize that he activates the descending pathway, whether it be through some sort of self-hypnosis or some way of creating disattention. Clearly, he is able to change something in his nervous system so that he can tolerate more pain.
So if Tim Cridland can tolerate pain by using meditation or self-hypnosis, could this be what's allowing Dr. Hall and the Sufi dervishes to not feel pain? Perhaps, but does this also explain the Sufi claims to be able to heal extraordinarily quickly? We went to Dr. Joseph Molnar for an answer. Molnar is a reconstructive surgeon who has operated on thousands of wound-related injuries. He thinks that the rapid healing has more to do with where the Sufis choose to wound themselves than with any spiritual power.
Many of the wounds that were created were put in places that are relatively silent. The man that put his sword through the chest looked to me that he was putting it through the skin and fat of his chest. We actually do something very similar in plastic surgery if we do liposuction of the chest.
But what about the wound created when Dr. Hall drove an ice pick through his cheek? There was very little blood, and the wound appeared to heal in minutes.
I'm not necessarily surprised with the amount of bleeding that I saw in that particular case. Anyone who's ever donated blood knows that you get some bleeding for a few minutes. If you hold pressure, it stops. Puncture wounds are relatively benign. It's not like you took anything out and then it filled in 2 hours. It was all there. It just had to close over a little bit and fall back into place. And that's what you expect with a puncture wound. I personally saw nothing that demonstrated anything that was clearly supernatural in the healing process.
But what about the GDV results that supposedly showed a decrease in energy in Dr. Howard Hall's aura? Does this really measure some mysterious energy in all living things? Is the aura the same thing as chi? And can some people really use chi to knock others out without even touching them?
Cursa Air Transat 236 a rămas fără combustibil în zbor. De ce?
Mi-am zis, asta e, o să murim în câteva minute.
Cu rezervorul gol, din seria Dezastre în aer. Marți noapte la 10.
Ai putea să ucizi oameni dacă viața ta ar depinde de asta. În timpul războiului mondial, doar 2% dintre soldați și-au împușcat dușmanii și mai puțin de un sfert au ochit spre soldații inamici. Ne oprește instinctul să ucidem? Mila e oare programată genetic? National Geographic investigează adevărul despre crimă. Miercuri la ora 22.
În lumea poveștilor,
balaurul e înspăimântător.
Respectat, uneori venerat, mereu de temut.
Strămoșii lui obișnuiau să-i mănânce pe strămoșii noștri.
Basme. Oare basme adevărate?
Dinozaurii morți nu lasă urme.
Un cercetător vrea să rescrie istoria naturală și să probeze că omul și dinozaurul au viețuit umăr lângă umăr. După balauri, joi noapte la 10.
Milan, home to Italy's stock market and business centers, and its fashion and shopping capital. It's also home to two of the world's most famous skeptics, chemist Luigi Garlascelli and psychologist Massimo Polidoro. Massimo writes prolifically on all kinds of supernatural phenomena. Luigi is the hands-on type. He'll subject himself to almost anything to make a skeptical point.
I think it is important for scientists to investigate strange claims because it is the job of science to discover what still is unknown, and it is what scientists do all the time.
I don't think it is possible for a person to transfer his or her energy to another person. If it really happens, then should be investigated with the instrument of science.
Massimo and Luigi are quite familiar with the GDV device used to test Dr. Hall's aura while he pierced his cheek. In fact, they've built their own version. Like the GDV, it's based on Kirlian photography, but it exposes a few problems with GDV as a tool to measure life energy.
In this device we have a high frequency generator and a high voltage generator.
Together, they produce a low-intensity electric charge that's safe to human touch. It's also equipped with tanks of helium and neon gas that are pumped to a sealed chamber under the surface plate of the machine. When an object is placed on the plate, the electrical charge excites the gas molecules, causing them to glow and creating what looks like the object's energy field or aura. But if this is supposed to be a life force, like an aura or chi, why is it just as powerful in inanimate objects?
It certainly does not capture an aura or a psychic energy or whatever. This is a machine that works by itself, and whatever you put on top of it, a hand, a shoe, scissors, anything, it just shows a glowing light. But it is not a light coming from the object, it's a light coming from the machine.
So the GDV device that was supposed to measure an energy field may only be measuring natural phenomena like temperature, pressure, and humidity. Now it's time for Massimo and Luigi to turn their attention to the most hair-raising use of mystical energies we've seen so far. Throwing chi to knock someone out without even touching them. Massimo reviewed the tapes of George Dillman and his followers performing such no-touch knockouts and was not impressed.
The people going there expected what was going to happen, and they were expected to react in a specific way. And they just reacted to the suggestion. When this happens in hypnotism demonstrations on stage by a magician, which doesn't use hypnosis at all, just gives suggestions, and people who is ready to believe that kind of things reacts.
But critiquing a tape and standing up to a karate master are completely different matters. It's time for a showdown. In one corner, weighing in at no more than 125 pounds, is chemist Luigi Garlascelli. He thinks he can stand up to a knockout punch of chi because it doesn't exist. In the other corner, it's 8th degree black belt Leon J., one of George Dillman's top associates and fellow practitioner of the no-touch knockout. This ought to be interesting.
In fact, when we did the test on Luigi, who was not ready to believe these things, or maybe was just staying there, seeing what would happen. It didn't work.
Dillman thinks he knows what went wrong and has come up with a very interesting explanation.
The skeptic was a totally non-believer. Plus, I don't know if I should say that on film, but if the guy had his tongue in the wrong position of the mouth, that can also nullify it. Yeah, you can nullify it. You can nullify a lot of things done to you. In fact, you can nullify them if you raise those two big toes. If I say I'm going to knock you out, and you raise one toe and push one toe down, can't knock you out. And then if I go to try again, you reverse it. If you keep doing this, I won't knock you out.
Good to know. But there is another explanation. Perhaps chi, prana, baraka, all of the mystical energies that give mere mortals the capacity to do things that seem beyond the reach of normal humans, do so only because we believe in them. They give us the power to transcend pain and overcome physical and mental limitations because we buy into them. But even if nothing supernatural is involved here, there is a power that one has to marvel at. The power of the human mind.
Well, skepticism can be taken too far, can be counterproductive. A little skepticism is a good thing. Too much of it really retards the progress of civilization.
There are certainly a lot of people that need these claims to be real, sticking to some kind of disbeliefs that says that you are special and you just need to develop your powers to become better than the others, and whatever is important to them.
Just shot scenes for a movie where I'm a detective and I do some of my no-touch stuff in the movie. Now we'll see if the public believes that. I don't care if they do or don't, it's in there and it's for real. I won't allow trickery. Who are you fooling? You're only fooling yourself.
To the extent that we make people believe there are special powers that exist, we start people believing in falsehoods. And there's an ethical point there, I think, that it goes beyond entertainment then to some paranormal claim.